Hello everyone, this is Raptor coming at you yet again, and I'm a little upset at this moment because I just recorded roughly 50 minutes of me working on the next land in my Disneyland Reboot project, and for some reason my OBS did not record anything in my Photoshop, so all I have is my webcam footage, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, do I have to start all over again? Because I don't want to just take a screenshot of what I've already drawn in Photoshop and just have my webcam keep talking while nothing's happening on the screen. Then it's just a screenshot, and I feel that wouldn't really make for much of a video to look at. It would just be my face and this picture for 50 minutes or so. So I decided, you know what, I'll start over. I feel like this is a sign, like these videos should not get made, which will further reinforce my notion to my friends that maybe it just isn't meant to be. The world should not know of the ideas that I have for Disneyland brainstorming in my head. But you know what? Crap happens. It's just another one of those days, and I feel more of these kinds of days are gonna happen as time goes by. So I changed my hotkeys on OBS because apparently that's what caused the issue of it not recording, even though I've recorded at least 20 videos by now using those same hotkeys, and today they just don't feel like working. So I changed my hotkeys, and I've pretty much erased all the progress I made on my Photoshop document. So now you guys get a second take of the ideas I have. Hopefully I remember them all because I just took out these ideas from my head as I went along, and I'm trying to see if I can remember all of them. So here we go. Alright, so first of all, I like the entrance that exists now in Tomorrowland. I'm not too opposed to how they were designed, like these two triangular structures with all this little scientific stuff on them. The one thing I will take out though is the stupid Astro Orbiter. I mean, I like the design aesthetic, don't get me wrong, I like the ride. It just is in a horrible position at the entrance to Tomorrowland. Like, what were they thinking? Going to the entrance of a land and go, you know what? We should just plop a ride right here. You know, it'll block up all the traffic. It'll make it horrendous for people going in and out of Tomorrowland coming from the hub. So let's just do it. And that was just terrible, terrible executive decision. So I would take that out. I will move it somewhere else, just not here. Because I kind of want to keep that. That's a very well-designed ride, just in a horrible location. And from there, we should go to what's currently Buzz Lightyear. I'm not a fan of it because, like, they plopped it into Tomorrowland, but they used the Toy Story aesthetic of Buzz Lightyear. Like, if they went with the whole Space Ranger aspect of Buzz Lightyear, I would have no problem with it being in Tomorrowland, but they didn't. I mean, you go to the queue and Buzz Lightyear is showing you how to use the gun with an Etch-A-Sketch. Like, how does that make any sense? You're in Tomorrowland. Why don't you use a computer screen and some technology stuff to demonstrate the ride to your guests? Why is Buzz Lightyear using an Etch-A-Sketch? Does he do that in Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger TV show? No, he uses like a blaster and he rides a spaceship and he has all his Space Ranger buddies with him. So for that, I'd take him out entirely because the overall aesthetic of Buzz Lightyear doesn't belong in Tomorrowland anyways. But what does belong in Tomorrowland is Tron. So if you haven't known by now, the Buzz Lightyear used to be a ride called Adventure Through Inner Space. And in that ride, you're in the ride vehicles and you're going through a telescope, and from there you're supposed to get shrunken down and explore something. I don't know, I think it was the human body. It was either the human body or you're exploring like the world in a micro perspective. And for that, I feel like that can work for a Tron layout, because then you would enter the world of Tron through the telescope which would be obviously designed after the telescope from the Tron movie, and you'll get shrunken and digitized, and you'll enter the Disneyland mainframe, where it's under attack by viruses and malware, and your job is an antivirus warrior, and you're trying to destroy all the viruses and malware. So I think that'll be a really cool ride to have. I mean, at least the theming works with Tomorrowland better than Space Ranger Buzz Lightyear. And then over on this direction is Star Tours. Again, Star Tours, I love you, but you really don't belong here in Tomorrowland. So not Buzz Lightyear, Star Tours will get moved out and join the rest of Star Wars Land in another park entirely. And here I would rather change it to a light cycle simulator. So every guest who go in, they'll have their own light cycle in their own little like 360 room, and then everyone would be racing against each other at the same time. So you could probably load up maybe 10 vehicles at once, and then you do like a 1 minute race against each other, and you do all this you're on the own light cycle and you're doing this 360 experience, and it'd be kind of cool. And then you have like a little scoreboard at the end, see who's got the highest score for that race, and then the daily leaderboard score. So it'd be like a really neat ride for people to get on over and over, just to beat each other and race each other, because I don't think that there's ever been an experience like that in a Disney park, or I don't think any park for that matter, where you're actually like on this simulator but you're racing against other people and trying to beat their scores. And of course all the typical tricks that you can do is like use your light wave to block other players and kick them out of the game, and it'll just be like maybe 30 seconds to a minute per round, and then you unload everyone, and then you load in the next group of people, and you can have like 2 or 3 sections of that, so you're loading like 30 people all at once, and hopefully it'll go quickly. But I feel like that would be a pretty cool light cycle experience. I know the light cycle roller coaster over at Shanghai Disneyland that's also coming over to Walt Disney World would also be like a pretty cool ride, but given Disneyland's space and Anaheim constricting it from expanding, I mean, that would be the closest thing to a light cycle experience that we would get. So we have Tron the Virus Hunter, and then Tron Light Cycle Racing. And then over here we have Tomorrowland Terrace, nice little burger place. And then it's got the stage that rises up. So I would like to keep this area. This area is a cool little area to eat at. And then over here would be the platform for the old spinner ride. So for those of you who don't know, the Tomorrowland had a different spinner ride called Rocket to the Moon, which I feel is a superior spinner ride because, I mean, Astro Orbiter, we already have a ride like that over in Fantasyland called Dumbo, so there's really no reason to have pretty much a copy of that in the same park. Whereas, yeah, the Rocket to the Moon is also a spinner ride, but this is a spinner ride that's like 2 feet up. That's a pretty impressive height. So I feel like it's a much more thrilling experience when it's that high up compared to Astro Orbiter, which is just like on the ground like Dumbo is. So yeah, bring that back. This will be like the platform. And then over at the side is the launch towers where people will line up to get on the ride. And Tomorrowland Terrace over here with the all the burgers that you can eat with the stage shows and whatnot. And then over here, I would definitely love to see the return of the People Mover. I mean, that is such a nice little chill ride, because I feel like Disneyland has gone so far into thrill rides. There's not a lot of chill rides to balance that out. And I see like so many elderly people who come to Disneyland, and all they do is they sit on the benches and they watch their grandkids go on all the rides while they sit there, because all the rides are too intense for them to enjoy with their grandkids, or like they have heart problems and they want to enjoy with their grandkids but they can't, otherwise they risk having a heart attack. So Disneyland needs to go back to having a better balance of thrill rides and chill rides. Because also, I come to Disneyland, I don't always want to go on Space Mountain. Sometimes I just want to like sit on the Disneyland Railroad and just watch the scenery go by. And the People Mover was another option that people used to have, where you can just sit on it and enjoy all the rides that Tomorrowland has to offer in one slow, steady experience. So yeah, People Mover definitely needs to come back. Come back and enjoy and allow a new generation of kids and adult alike to enjoy the aesthetics and take in the scenery of Tomorrowland. There you go, People Mover. And then down this way is I think we have the gift shop or whatnot. That's the Tron Light Cycle Racing. The gift shop is next to it. And then here we have Space Mountain. That's definitely not going anywhere. Space Mountain is a classic. Can't go wrong with Space Mountain. I love the spires that they built around it. Like, that's one of the few things they've done that really harkens to Walt's original design aesthetic of Tomorrowland. And then the theater in front, I would love it if they bring us Alien Encounter. Now, Alien Encounter, I know there's a lot of controversial stuff about it, being that it's very intense attraction. It's an experience. You're sitting down, you're strapped down, and you've experienced the alien going around doing its alien stuff. And it's kind of funny because the original alien that was going to be an Alien Encounter was the Xenomorph from the Alien franchise, and given that Disney bought out Fox, I mean, this would be a perfect opportunity to introduce Alien Encounter to Disneyland. But given how things are, I don't think that's going to be happening, but it'd be great because then it could be another spooky ride in the park other than Haunted Mansion. So you have Haunted Mansion for like the rest of the year, and then during the holidays it changes up to Night Before Christmas. So with Alien Encounter, it could be the default scary all year round, but during the summer it can change to Stitch's Great Escape. Because I know there's some fans of Stitch, and I feel like he should have his alien side be represented to the park to some extent. And I feel Alien Encounter would be a great way to balance between the two. And that's the thing I like about Disneyland here. We have overlays for some of the rides just to make it so it's not the same ride all year round, so it entices people to come back and visit. So having Alien Encounter and Stitch's Great Escape all in one place would be a really great attraction for people. And then over here we have this rotating theater that's currently not rotating because it's housing Star Wars Launch Bay. And I would love to have a Carousel of Progress 2.0. So this would become the Tomorrowland Institute, where you come in, you sit down, and your seat rotates, and the center will be like 4 different scenes. So to illustrate, let's have the interior be divided like so. So you have the loading area would be outside. And then the stage would be on the inside. So then all the seats would rotate. I know I'm not making it look particularly nice, but bear with me. So these curves are the seats. And the center portion would be the stage. So we would have maybe one portion lead into advances in biology, the next portion leads to advances in technology, advances in medicine, advances in space, or maybe robotics. And it'll be very entertaining yet educational, because the current Carousel of Progress, they still have it over at Walt Disney World, and that's more focused on like following a family through the decades, so following them through the 1950s, technology changes in the 1960s, and the 70s, then 80s. I think now the 80s portion, which is like the last portion, it keeps getting advanced later and later, and now it doesn't make sense because like at that point, grandma and grandpa characters in the show should not be around anymore. So I'd rather change for Carousel of Progress 2.0, I would rather change it so it just focuses on certain aspects of the sciences, entertain people about what advances have been made, what used to be, and where we're going in the future. I believe Disney could find a way to make that entertaining. Of course, we have like the loading area here, or something to that effect. So that would be a great way to bring back the Carousel of Progress and make it more in theming with like the futuristic city of Tomorrowland. So we've got that, and then I think Pizza Port is over here. Pizza Port's location used to be Mission to Mars, but I feel like we shouldn't change that back to Mission to Mars because we honestly need a second dining location in Tomorrowland, because having everything focused on Tomorrowland Terrace is kind of a bit stressful, and that means it's going to be even more crowded than it is just to get a meal. So I feel like having this this area not be an attraction is going to help ease like the lunch crowds and the dinner crowds. So sorry, Mission to Mars fans, we're not getting your attraction back in my iteration of Disneyland. But that's not to say it won't come back in some other form. Who knows what the future would bring? This is Tomorrowland after all. So I'm not a fan of Pizza Port. I feel like they could be doing more with the genre of Tomorrowland being more sci-fi than, another rocket themed eatery. So I feel with this area should be called, I don't know, hydroponics garden, and have it be decorated, white aesthetic on the outside like the rest of Tomorrowland, but then inside would be like the walls lined with hydroponic plants, and then there'll be like a salad bar, and like the whole menu would be plant-based. Because I feel like that works well with the futuristic aspect of Tomorrowland. Because keep in mind, like all the plant life in Tomorrowland is edible to some degree. Like the trees produce fruit, the bushes produce herbs or seasonings, peppers, maybe some berries. Everything in Tomorrowland was always meant to be edible. And I feel like we should at least have one restaurant that caters to that vision. And then over here, over by Matterhorn. Now Matterhorn, I want to return it back to Tomorrowland, because once upon a time Matterhorn was originally designed to be in Tomorrowland, hence why the early bobsleds had a more Tomorrowland futuristic kind of look to them. And so for that, all the waiting area would be consolidated in front of Tomorrowland. And we will call it Tomorrowland Base Camp. So no more lining up around the mountain and making things more convoluted than it already needs to be. We'll just make Matterhorn Base Camp. And the purpose of base camp is to verify the existence of the abominable snowman. And then in the base camp, it will just be like a bunch of research equipment, and it'll document the sightings of Sasquatch in North America and Yeti in Tibet, and of course the abominable snowman in the Swiss Alps and Matterhorn. So I feel like that's a fun little edutainment sort of element to add to Matterhorn and bring it back into the theme of Tomorrowland rather than shoving it over in Fantasyland. And then to go with that would be over here across Matterhorn is the Submarine Voyage Lagoon. So here we have the two waterfalls. I can't do rocks anymore, blah. And then over here would be another Tomorrowland institution, which focuses on oceanic exploration. Add some more lines in that waterfall to make it more waterfall-y. My rocks are fantastic. Do not mock my rocks. So Submarine Voyage is one of my favorite rides, the one ride that I always loved back in the early days of Disneyland, and I've always fondly remembered the original Submarine Voyage. It had the giant squid, mermaids, and the Sea Serpent. The Sea Serpent, hands down, one of my favorite characters from the Submarine Voyage. And I was really sad when they closed it down and then they reopened it with the Nemo theme. And the Nemo retheming really doesn't capture the spirit of the original Submarine Voyage very well, because it ruined the open ocean aspect of it. Because the original Submarine Voyage, the way they laid it out was that it was basically you're in a tank of water and there's just like decorations all over, but it's like one seamless experience. Like you look at the porthole and it really feels like you're out in the open waters exploring all the different oceans of the world. With the Finding Nemo themed Submarine Voyage, you already feel claustrophobic in the submarines themselves, and then you look out the portholes and you can see the rocks like right next to the submarines, so that adds to the claustrophobic atmosphere of the submarines. So first off, I would like to redesign the submarines so they're more, again, futuristic. Because, let's be honest, the submarine designs, they're a bit outdated. They need to fit in more in line with the aesthetics of Tomorrowland. So the new submarine designs would be more oblong. There would be more like modern day submarines, because modern day research submarines, they're globular and they have robotic arms to like poke and pry at the flora and fauna of the ocean. And I feel like this way, with it being more globular, it would have less people per submarine, but then it also be designed in a way to allow handicapped people to finally enter the submarines and experience the ride themselves. Because right now, you pretty much have to be like completely healthy and mobile to even go into the submarines. And I feel more people should be able to experience the submarines without having to be non-handicapped, basically. So redesigning the submarines to be more globular would allow for that to happen. Also, I would like to have the Submarine Voyage be redesigned to be like an open ocean experience. But I know that's really expensive. So a compromise, if you've ever seen The Shape of Water, despite your misgivings about The Shape of Water, I feel the opening scene of the movie really sells the whole dry underwater. So if you don't know, if you watch the opening scene of Shape of Water, everything, all the furniture and everything is actually on strings, and then the water effect is made by lights. It's a light effect. But you look at it, and the way it's all the furniture and stuff is animated, like you think it's underwater. It gives the illusion of being underwater without actually being underwater. And I feel Disney would be able to replicate that kind of feel in Submarine Voyage. So having it so the animatronics in the first part are all underwater would be the only underwater animatronics. And then all the animatronics past the waterfall would be in the dry areas, and then all you need to do is manipulate the lights to imitate an underwater feel, which they're already doing that to some extent in Finding Nemo, but I feel like the effect is still lost having the rock work be so close to the submarines and having it be an obvious divider between scenes that you really lose out on that open ocean aspect, because I still feel like even though they've managed to mimic a dry underwater scene with the animatronics, it still feels claustrophobic because the way they presented the scenes. I feel like if they can work on that and improve on it, it could just be just as good as the original Submarine Voyage, which was all underwater. So that's basically my redesign for the Submarine Voyage. If you guys want me to go more in depth on any of these attractions, I'll be more than welcome to make an entirely separate video. Right now I'm just gonna do the bare basics of how the various lands would look, and then maybe if enough of you commented and want to see what would be my in-depth ideas for all these other attractions, I'll be more than happy to go into those. And some more rocks by the Matterhorn just to flesh that out. Okay, next aspect would be the Autopia. Autopia, it's kind of really in a bad place because everyone was expecting Disney to change all the vehicles to electric vehicles as they should be, and they refurbished it for 6 months to 8 months. I think it was maybe a year. I don't remember how long it closed last time, but people were so disappointed that Disney reopened it and they chose to keep all the cars gas powered. So my redesign for the Autopia would be to change it to Autopia through Epcot. Now, for those of you who don't know, Epcot originally stood for... what does it stand for again? Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. So basically, Epcot was Walt's proof of concept for a city design, where the main city activity would be ground level, and then parking and driving and road streets would be on an underground level, and then housing would be on different levels, something kind of like underground society, like the Matrix or something. Of course, that fell through once he passed away, and so they changed that to some sort of pseudo international theme park. So what I want to do is bring back the original concept of Epcot, but use it as a design element for Autopia. Autopia, the basic concept could be you're testing out these new and improved electric vehicles of the future, and you're going for a test drive through the cities, and you get to see the cityscape of Epcot, and you get to see all the various parks and stuff. So it won't be exactly how Walt envisioned it, like an actual city that you live in and work in, but at least it'll exist in some form. So let's have the downtown area here, maybe residential housing over here, and then futuristic parks and gardens over here. That's not really representative. Futuristic parks and gardens over here. And maybe new farmlands or hydroponics greenhouse over here. Just take what concepts he had for Epcot and just integrate the driving experience Autopia with it. And I feel like that's a better experience than current Autopia right now, where you're just driving through bushes and stuff. Yeah, they try to add some story element with Osimo and his little bird friend, but I feel like taking it the next step and having it be an actual miniaturized Epcot would be a much better ride experience for Autopia. Trying to build bridge here and it's not really working out too well. You can go over under the bridge. Be kind of fun. Little Epcot freeway bridges. And then over here by the Matterhorn there's the old motorboats dock. And that'll be another way to experience Epcot as well. You can take a futuristic motorboat and travel around Epcot in another aspect of it. Like maybe like this could be like, I don't know, like have motorboats and Autopia be integrated in a way with the entire concept of Epcot, just to have it so you can experience it by car, you can experience it by boat. Some boats over here, so this is like maybe like a Venice version of Epcot. Maybe show some like shipping barges or whatever. Like that'd be a cool way to look at things. Yeah. So there you have it. This is what I would do to improve Tomorrowland, because I really love the concept, but I feel like the current people in charge don't really have much imagination to really bring out its potential. There's more I want to do with Tomorrowland, but I kind of don't want to reveal it at this point because that's more of an overlay idea I have, and I feel like that would be better off in a separate episode where I talk about holiday or seasonal overlays for the entire park as a whole, rather than just focusing it on like one land at a time. So anyways, this is my version of Tomorrowland, which I will now color up to bring it to life. My memories of Tomorrowland are very short. I mean, I've always wanted to go on the People Mover and the Skyway, if anyone remembers that, the Skyway to and from Tomorrowland and Fantasyland. And the one thing, like, the Skyway was a great concept because during parades, if you wanted to get from one end of the park to the other, you totally can by just hopping onto the Skyway and you'll get across the parade route. I mean, that's the way they designed the Skyway, as a means for you to travel between two halves of the land without having to deal with the parade. But then Eisner and Peter Pressler came along and they shut that down, and now we have to deal with the parade crowd control every stinking year. And that's really annoying, but now that's what we're stuck with, so we just have to learn to deal with it. Sadly. I'm not gonna do a good job on these. I'm just gonna really color through them really quick, just so you guys can visualize what it is I'm looking for. And again, the whole color theme of Tomorrowland would just essentially be Walt's original futuristic white. It's basically like what happens if Apple designed a theme park. It would all be like very minimalistic and simple. But there is a reason for that, which will be revealed in a future video, just not right now. So you're just gonna have to wait to see what ideas I have in store, and being the reason for why Tomorrowland is stark white for most of the year. Because during a certain time of the year, it is not going to be stark white. It will change to be something maybe incredible. Maybe you might find it pretty cool. Maybe you won't. I think it's pretty cool, and that's why I am going to show it to you, but not right now. And I've made this waterway a little too big, but it's okay because it will make Autopia that much better. Bleep. Just change that up a little, make it less boring. Of course, cities. And I'll make it off-white. Don't want it to be too boring. And then at night you'll see projections and stuff coming from the windows of the city buildings and the residential buildings, just to show what it would look like if people lived there, what the nightlife would be like. There's all the streets and the freeways. And then Imagineers could interject their own little stories for the people who live in this miniaturized Epcot. Let's see, what color should I do the rocket? I guess go gray. That's what Elon Musk is going for these days. Nice futuristic gray. You can get Elon Musk to work on the rockets. That'd be kind of cool. And then, of course, the launch bay, or the launch tower that you have to line up on to get onto the second floor. Yep, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm sure everyone would love to have like a covered waiting area for Matterhorn instead of lining up around the mountain. So there you have it. That is my Tomorrowland, which oh my gosh, I drew it so big. It's like Toontown started like really small, and then it got a little bigger with Frontierland, and now Tomorrowland's just out of nowhere. So yeah, that will be all for this episode of Disneyland Reboot. I hope you'll join me for the next video. I guess I'll still focus on Disneyland, since now I've realized there's one other land I would like to fix up a bit before I move into the second gate idea that I have. So until next time, this is Raptor signing off. Laters.